The movie begins in 1999 when a woman in Yeonwol, Gangwon-do gives birth to twin girls. Inside the womb, the thing had been feeding on the other twin's leg. Lee Junhwa is born with a deformed leg, and the thing with 6 fingers is unlikely to survive. The mother dies a week after giving birth, and years later, the father decides to end his life by hanging himself. However, Junhwa finds out that he had died in a car crash. The thing didn't die quickly, despite what the doctor said, and it was still alive and well with her. Junhwa lives in a remote village with her grandparents, who recently moved there and made a living by raising dogs in 2014. The sister is kept hidden from the public eye and locked in a backyard shed. Her birth is never registered, and no one else knows of her existence except the family. The local livestock has been acting up recently since Junhwa and her grandparents moved into the village. Some locals decide to investigate the farm with the help of a shaman. Junhwa sees them coming up and runs inside the house, and the family immediately shuts the windows and doors as their neighbors bang on their door, calling for them to come out. Later that night, the shaman and her assistant watch the house. They hear a noise coming from there, but they can't identify it because of the dogs howling and yapping. As they come closer to the house, they hear the sound of a child crying coming at the back. They approach the shed, where the noise is coming from, with caution. The shaman waves a bush clover branch, believing the spirits will protect them. As they come closer, snakes crawl out of it and bite the shaman's ankle, scaring them off. A priest named Pastor Park is giving a lecture about charlatans, false prophets, and his work exposing cults at a university. As a result of this profession, more and more people hate him, and a group of protesters is outside his office, calling him a crook and saying that he should resign as a pastor. They pelt him with raw eggs when they saw him and yelled at him to get lost. Later, as he is working, his assistant, Deaconess Sim, pesters him about an article he needs to publish immediately. He ignores her about it and leaves for Gangwon-do to investigate a mysterious group called Donbangyo or Deer Hill. At Gangwon-do, he meets with Go Joseph, who has recently concluded a meeting with the Buddhist-inspired faith group. He tells the pastor that the teachings are odd and do not ask for offerings but help the believers who struggle financially. The group also deviates from the actual teachings of Buddhism, and they worship someone named General. Parks tells him to investigate more on them as he wants something juicy and scandalous. Meanwhile, under a nearby bridge, police are looking into the circumstances surrounding a young girl's body covered in concrete that they discovered. The next day, Pastor Park goes to the monks to report his findings on Deer Hill. He insists that even if the organization doesn't profit from its believers, it may one day rise as dangerous, pointing out similar groups before. They dismiss his theories, but one of the monks, Monk Han, advises him to look into the group's scriptures. It may reveal something so the Buddhist Association can impose sanctions on them. Meanwhile, an individual named Gwaimok pays a visit to his friend Kim Cheol-jin, a truck driver who admits he has failed father. He tells him he is afraid, as the dead children visit him every night. Gwaimok reminds him that they are carrying out a divine mission to eliminate evil and that he should not let his fears get in the way. He also tells him to go ahead and die, as the world will call him soon. They both recite a verse together about one day defeating evil and catching the snake. Later, the autopsy on the dead girl reveals adzuki beans and a strange-looking talisman inside her mouth. The pathologist tells Chief Hwan of her findings and recalls a similar case. The police's investigation leads them to Kim Cheol-jin, which has the Deer Hill Sanctuary as his address, which they later find is the wrong place. Park is also there investigating the refuge, and he inquires to the chief what brought them there. The police leave as they finally get the correct address of Kim Cheol-jin. Park notes the name Kim Cheol-jin as he believes it may be helpful. That night, Pastor Park and Monk Han reveal to him that he found 2 other chapters of Deer Hill. The general that each group worships are not generals but are the 4 great heavenly kings who symbolize the cardinal directions. King Jigek, King Damon, King Junjang, and King Gwaimok are the 4 guardians that protect Buddha. They also mark the locations of the 4 chapters of Deer Hill on the map. Inside the Deer Hill Sanctuary, Park and Joseph find a secret passage to a room. They suspect someone is living there, maybe Kim Cheol-jin. That he finally finds the scripture they are looking for, and on each wall, they see paintings of the Buddhist guardians, which confirms Monk Han's theory. At the same time, the police are inside Jin's mother's Kim Cheol apartment, where they are waiting for him to arrive. While they wait, he calls his mother and tells her that her son is fighting evil and that they will see each other again in heaven, regardless of what others say about him. He then recites a verse before jumping off the roof as Gwaimok drives away. The next day, Pastor Park, with the help of his police sister Park Eun-hai, gets a hold of police records on Kim Cheol-jin, as he is curious what his connection is to Deer Hill. Meanwhile, Waimak is given an information sheet on Jeonhwa by one of the Dongbangyo members. He starts to follow an unassuming Jeonhwa closely. That night, Jeonhwa's grandma tells her to give food to her sister. As she is scared of her sister, she runs to the shed, leaving the food by the door. Meanwhile, Waimak has nightmares about dead girls coming at him, but they end with a woman consoling him with a song. Later, Park learns Pungsa Kim Ji-seok wrote the scriptures of Dongbangyo, and he finds an article online about a Buddhist master Nekang Tenpa who wants to meet the founder of Dongbangyo, Kim Ji-seok. Monk Han reveals to them that the head Buddhist monk Yin-hwa, or as Park likes to call him, Octopus, is an expert on Dongbangyo. That night, monk Yin-hwa tells them about Pungsa Kim Ji-seok and that he is a god as he has attained Buddhahood. Despite the organization's disapproval of him back then, he then expanded his influence by creating Dongbangyo, which disbanded in 1985, and Kim Ji-seok disappeared. Park learns from an article that Kim Ji-seok donated significantly to a youth detention center about 20 years ago. Park and Joseph decide to go to the detention center with a plan of donating as it is Christmas time, and the warden sees through their actions and asks what their intentions are. They wondered about Kim Ji-seok's donation to the center 20 years ago. They also learned that Kim Ji-seok adopted 4 juvenile delinquents who killed their fathers, and one of the boys was Kim Cheol-jin. Park figures out that 3 of the boys are dead by basing it on the drawings that show them as deities with halos. They conclude that the remaining god is Waimak, who is still alive and has no halo yet. Later, Waimak is at Jeonhwa's place and he has plans to strangle her. However, birds begin to fly through the window, which confuses Waimak and alerts Jeonhwa. He follows his intuition to the shed, where his sister is hiding. He tries to look underneath the door to check what is inside, but suddenly the sister grabs his leg from under the door, and Waimak is frightened and runs off back to Deer Hill. Meanwhile, Pastor Park goes to Silnam Daemun police station, where his sister works. He finds out 3 of the 4 guys are dead, confirming his earlier theory. All 3 men have been convicted or suspected of killing young girls, and learn that the last guy, Jong Na-han, is still alive, but unbeknownst to him, is now named Waimak. After that, Waimak goes to the Dongbangyo residence, where an old lady directs him where to go and speaks with the henchman tending the grounds. He tells Waimak that the girl is the snake. Waimak meets with his father, who is dying. He recalls the day his father gave him the nickname, Waimak, saying he is one of the stars who will protect the light. Meanwhile, henchman catches Pastor Park sneaking around the Dongbangyo residence and orders him to leave. Later, Waimak confronts him by rear-ending his car and steals the information sheet on Jeonhwa. Park tells Chief Wang about his findings, but he doesn't believe him and tells him that it isn't in his jurisdiction anymore. He also calls Monk Han to help, who tells him that Buddhism has no absolute evil, but is a Christian belief. He also tells him of Nekang Tenpa, a Tibetan Buddhist master who has come to visit their headquarters. As Jeonhwa prepares to run away, she gives her sister food with a pesticide, intending to kill her. She starts to leave but then changes her heart and returns to knock the poisoned food out of her sister's way. At the same time, Pastor Park decides to speak with Nekang Tenpa, who recounts an encounter in 1985 with the Master or Maitreya. He assures Park that humankind has finally achieved immortality. After observing the Master's hand counting all 12 fingers, the Master, he claims, is still alive even though he was born in 1899. Park asks about the Dongbangyo scriptures, which speak of a snake who will kill the light. Tenpa says that the snake is the natural enemy of the Master. Tenpa says he delivered a prophecy to the Master, that his enemy will be born in the same place where the Master was born in 100 years and will turn out the light. Park asks Tenpa about the numbers in the scriptures, but he cannot figure it out either. Park deduces that the cult founder Kim Ji-seok is the light, and the 4 guardians have been killing all the young girls born in 1999 in Yeonwol, Kim Ji-seok's hometown. He realizes the numbers in the scripture were all girls' birth registration numbers. Meanwhile, Waimak has kidnapped Jeonhwa and is preparing to kill her. She asks why she has to die. He says she is born evil, but death is not the end. Jeonhwa tells Waimak about her sister and asks him to kill her also so she can be reborn as a human in the next life. During this, Pastor Park calls Chief Kwang, requesting for him to look up the records, which can confirm his theory. Most of the victims of the 4 boys adopted by Kim Ji-seok were girls born in Yangwol in 1999. Later, they discover that the numbers in the scripture are the birth registration numbers for all the murdered 81 girls, on the basis that they may have been the ones prophesied to kill the snake, just like in the Gospel of Matthew. Shi Huang also realizes that some of the missing cases posted on the wall are part of the 81 girls. Gwanmak finds the sister at Junhwa's place and prepares to strangle her. He sees that she has shed her hideous appearance and has taken on the pose of a Buddha. She tells him that she has been waiting for her and that she is the one who consoles him in his nightmares after he sheds blood. She sings the same song to him as in his demons. She tells him to look for the mark, the 6 fingers, on the person he calls father and to kill him. Later, Gwaimak returns to the Dongbangyo residence. On the way there, he encounters Park, who tells him Kim Ji-seok has fooled all of them into killing all those girls. Gwaimak drives off and tells the henchman of his findings. He goes to check his dying father's hand, but he only has 5 fingers. The henchman lures Gwaimak to a barn, telling him about the elephant, which he shoots at and shoots Gwaimak as well, and drives off to kill Junhwa's sister. Park arrives at the residence and is confused as to why the older man is dying. He hides and learns that the henchman is Kim Ji-seok and that the older man is just a disciple who begs the henchman to kill him. The henchman is now revealed to be Kim Ji-seok, who thanks him for all his hard work and turns off the older man's life support. Park helps an injured Gwaimak into his car. While driving, Park tells Gwaimak that the man he called father is his disciple. They finally catch up to him and they hit his car. Pastor Park introduces himself to him, acting as if smacking his vehicle was an accident. Park calls him by the name Kim Ji-seok. The man reacts, which confirms Park of his suspicions. As Kim Ji-seok continues to drive, he points out the smell of blood. Gwaimak reveals himself, who must have sneaked in during the encounter with Park, at the back of his car, and he asks who he is. He tells him that he is the light and that Gwaimak is one of the stars that protect him. He tells him not to be sad about the acts they have committed for him, and he also tells him that he has won the race against time and that there are things he must do for the world and offers for him to continue to serve. Hearing this, an enraged Gwaimak goes to strangle him and tells Kim that he is just a predator who is desperate to live. The car swerves around and eventually crashes. They are both stuck and fuel is dripping on them. Kim Ji-seok escapes and starts to walk away. Gwaimak grabs his foot as he tries to stop him, but can't, so he retrieves the object that the sister had given him. The thing turns out to be lighter, and he sets the wet fuel trail on fire, leading to Kim Ji-seok killing him. Park arrives to see Kim Ji-seok burning to death. Gwaimak succumbs to his injuries, and with his last breath, he apologizes to Park for all his misdeeds, then dies. The movie ends with Junhwa still alive, arriving at the shed and holding her sister as the sister passes away.